Okay, so we have just finished our tools and equipment, and you guys all scored a 100 on identifying your tools and equipment. But now I'm going to show you how to use one of your tools, which is the rotary cutter. So this one requires like special instruction just because it is extremely sharp. So anytime that you're going to be cutting fabric, you have kind of two options. You can either use shears, which you're all familiar with, or you can use a rotary cutter. So they both do the same thing. Does that make sense? So some people prefer shears, some people prefer rotary cutter, and after today you can kind of decide which one is your preference. So if you look at the rules, there are some rules, again, just because it's really sharp. So rule number 1 is that the guard should be on anytime the rotary cutter is not in use. And so you push this button to pop the rotary cutter out, and essentially it's kind of like a razor blade on wheels. So it's really sharp. And so anytime you're going to sit it down, like if you are not actively cutting, just make sure that you hit the button perfect and put the guard back on before you sit it down. That way if someone else goes to grab it, they don't like accidentally cut themselves or anything. So always put the guard on anytime it's not in use. And then the rule number 2 says that the rotary cutter should only be used on the self-healing cutting mat. And so if you look around, there's some on this table, some on the other, but these are the self-healing cutting mats. Basically, they're just made with like a special substance that after you make the cut, it like fills back in the gaps. So that's really cool. It's great for cutting, but so what type of material is our rotary cutters made to cut? Fabric. What is this table made out of? Fabric. So can I use this on the table directly? No. So if you look, especially over there, some people have used, not used a cutting mat, and it cuts these tables. So yeah, definitely don't use them on the table. Also, some people think that you can just like use it on any flat surface, like the countertop or the floor. And so while it will technically cut, first of all, it dulls the blade, but also it'll cut right through the wax in the floor and put cut marks back there. So even if it's a flat surface, you can only use it on the cutting mat. Sound good? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's rule number 2. Rule number 3, and this is where it gets a little bit technical, is you're going to mark all measurements before you start cutting. So if we're doing an assignment, I don't know, if we're making something and I say cut a 4 by 4 inch square, you're going to have to do the measurements first, and you'll need to mark it. And so in the middle of both tables, there's some tailor's chalk, but always you'll want to start with a straight edge. And so, some of your pieces have pretty straight edges, like this edge is not perfectly straight. So if I was going to go from that edge, I would want to straighten it up first. So anytime that you're going to cut, you will want to measure and mark first. And so you'll start from the edge. Should you cut ever from like the center? No, because that's just it's wasting all those edges. Good. So don't ever cut from the center, always go from the edge. And so I would measure I'll just say 4 inches for this one. So you'll take your tailor's chalk, and you only need to make 2 marks. And so some people will like trace the whole entire thing, which you definitely don't have to do. It just takes 2 marks because you always cut using a straight edge. And so you'll make your measurement, and then you'll lay your straight edge down, which your straight edge in this case is a ruler. If it was a longer cut, I would do like a yardstick, but this is just 4 inches, so a ruler will be perfect. And then you can make your cut. And so that goes into rule number 4, which is always cut using a straight edge. So even though I can see these 2 lines, if you try to just like make the cut by like eyeballing it and guessing, it'll go off and your cut will not end up being like accurate. So always use a straight edge. And then rule number 5 says to apply pressure to the straight edge when making the cut. So you've got your ruler, or you can use, there's a few different things we can use, but in this case we're gonna use a ruler. And so you'll put the ruler down, and you're gonna apply pressure or just push down on the ruler to keep it from moving. But the most important thing before you make the cut is rule number 6. So in all caps it says, never let your fingers cross the ruler when making the cut. This will result in cutting yourself. And so the most important thing about this is just whenever you put the pressure down to make the cut, don't let your fingers go over that line. Anytime anyone has ever got hurt in here in any way, it's always been something like that with a rotary cutter, which is very rare, but they've let their fingers cross. And so we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And so whenever you've got your 2 cuts, you'll line up your points. It just takes 2 fingers, apply pressure, but most importantly, don't cross that cutting edge. And then you'll make your smooth cut. And so now I've cut one way, and then I would measure the other direction And so if I was doing 4 by 4, I'll go ahead and finish it out. So there's 4, and then using the tailor's chalk, and the tailor's chalk is different colors. Just use whatever, like if you have like a really light fabric, you probably would not want to use white. You'll want to use like blue or red or yellow. But you'll make your 2 cuts, and then again, line up your straight edge with 2 fingers, apply pressure, and then make your cut. And then when you're finished with your cut, just make sure you put the blade back on. And so you should have just like nice straight edges, okay? And so your assignment, what you're gonna do, just to get some practice with like measuring, marking, and then making the cut, you guys are gonna do 2 samples. So it says measure, mark, and rotary cut a 3 by 4 inch piece of fabric, and then glue it here, just in the space. You can just glue it directly using the glue. And then the second one is you're gonna measure and mark a 2 by 5 inch piece of fabric, and then just glue it down here at the bottom. So, does that sound good? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so there's 4 different cutting mats. We'll probably do like 3 to a mat. So if you just want to go find a spot and take your fabric with you. If you need to iron, I've got the irons and ironing boards out over here. So if you need to iron it, if your fabric is wrinkly before you start, you're welcome to do that. And then I'll just be around to help whoever needs help. And so to make sure you take your papers with you, Val. You got your paper?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, will you grab me one?
Yeah.
Right. These are like bad ones. These are so weird. Can we use these or no?
Yeah, you can use those.
Will you grab me one?
Okay.
You're gonna go first.
So how you want to go over here? There's just one person at that mat.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. So 3 by 4.
3 by 4, yeah.
Yep.
So, here you go. And the 3.
So here's 4.
Oh, that's not straight. We'll use this edge.
And so go from the edge up here. That way you can use that straight edge and not have to make the extra cut. Perfect.
I did mine.
Okay, so let's see. Which one is this? Right here?
Mm-hmm.
3, so 3 by 4. Hey, that's perfect. Okay, so you can grab some glue and it fits perfectly.
Okay, perfect.
And then you can go ahead and cut your second one.
How do you use this?
Oh, okay. So these are a little bit different. You actually, they're so easy that it's like complicated. So whenever you go to push down, it will take the guard off. And then when you pick up,
Yeah, I noticed it pulled down.
yeah. So these, you don't have to even remember to put the guard back
Okay,
on.
and what
which
is
kinda nice.
soft?
That's just how, so if you were cutting through a thicker fabric, you would turn it to hard.
Ah,
So if you're
gotcha.
cutting like
This one's-
corduroy or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Girl, that's.
How do you do what?
Nothing.
Is it good like that?
Talking.
Yeah. Yeah. That looks good. So you'll glue that one right
Yeah.
here. And then your next one. You're good. Good. So yeah, straighten that edge out.
So 3.
And so just remember, anytime you're about to cut again?
Yeah.
Okay, you're good. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, anytime you set it down, just make sure you put that guard back on. Perfect. So now that you've got a straight edge, that just makes it easier to do your measurements.
So
That one's a little tough. So you just gotta push this button down and it slides up. And so now, because you've got a blue fabric, let's grab you some yellow chalk just so it'll
Got
stick.
her.
Okay. There you go. And so it's actually, with this one, it's easier if you use the actual ruler just because you can do, you need to make 2 marks. So you made your first one.
Yeah,
So let's make your
And then just
second
do 4.
one.
But this word just
I
wasn't
don't know
There, so
why.
now you've got 1, 2
Just-
that you can
just do
line up.
this.
And then
Like
you'll go
that,
from the
right?
top to make your other one.
Okay.
Dang. I got these on point.
Good. Okay, perfect. So you're done with yours?
Yes.
Okay, so next person, whoever's waiting, you're welcome to slide over there in that spot. Okay, so because you're gonna wanna measure from this side. So you've gone over 3, now we need to go across 4. So start at the edge and then go over to the 4, so you'll wanna make your marks right here. So I'll make the first mark and then you make the second mark. Okay. You're good.
So for the next part, like,
So,
which-
so we've got one mark here, so we need a second one, and
Yeah.
so, and it doesn't matter where, so you can just line this up right here and make your second mark, because you just need 2.
I was so scared.
just like
Perfect, so now you've got your 2 marks, and so what do you do next?
that? Like cut?
Yeah, but what do you do before you cut?
Like, my
So, okay, so you've marked your measurements, and so step 4, always use a straight edge, and so your straight edge in this case is gonna be your ruler.
okay.
And so, perfect, line your ruler up with your 2 cuts. And then, yeah, gotta watch out for those fingernails.
So I measure next
Yep,
color.
yep, and then just put pressure and make sure that your fingers don't cross that line. And just make one smooth cut. And you gotta go all the way up,
Okay, okay.
yeah. Keep going. Nice, and that should be good. And so now you cut this side, and now we'll turn it and make your other cut. So line your ruler back up. Perfect, pressure, watch the fingers. And just make one smooth cut.
That one's good.
Ta-da! Perfect.
2 by
Just make sure
5.
we put this guard back on. So that's just the scrap, and then this is the one that you actually cut.
Ah, okay.
So there's your first one. So right here where it says measure and mark from where to cut your 3 by 4 inch piece. There you go. And so now you can measure and mark the second one. Okay. Perfect. Y'all good over here?
2 by
Yep. I didn't think about the fingernails with this. It makes it hard when you've got the long nails. I feel like those are fancy. All right, and y'all are done. Okay, if you want to, go ahead and just put your name on it, and you can stick that in the box. And that way, we'll kind of clear up some space back here. You can go ahead and cut it.